Martial arts and life have a lot in common. Both take a tremendous amount of patience, determination, grit, a strong mindset. And to get either done correctly, you need the right people to listen to. This is Beyond the Mat, the podcast where real talk meets raw insights. Get ready to dive deep into the world of martial arts, coaching, business, and health as we bring you candid conversations with professionals, coaches, authors, and entrepreneurs who are making waves beyond the confines of the dojo. From the adrenaline-fueled arena of combat sports to the boardrooms of successful enterprises, Beyond the Mat is your go-to destination for real and raw discussions, plus invaluable lessons learned on and off the mat. So, if you're ready to unlock the secrets to success in every aspect of your life, let's do this. Live from the Great 1-8, this is Beyond the Mat, where warriors are made and legacies are forged. Here's Mark Cox.
Good morning, Aaron. How you doing today?
Good. How are you doing, sir?
Excellent, excellent. Looking forward to this talk this morning. I got a great day ahead of me afterwards. I get another 3-hour session on my back tattoo, which just sucks. So I'm looking forward to our talk today with a guest. This is something very close to my heart when we start working with special needs and kids with disabilities. I love this stuff. So with no further ado, let me go ahead and read your bio for everybody.
Sure.
Aaron, it says, Aaron, the founder of the Inclusive Dad, is a relentless advocate for building stronger communities through inclusion. He proudly displays an inclusion tattoo on his arm and a testament to his commitment. Residing in Minnesota with his partner and 2 cats, Aaron is a proud father of 2 young adults. Aaron's journey into the world of disabilities and special education began when his daughter was diagnosed with epilepsy and cerebral palsy at a young age. For over 15 years, he has fiercely championed his daughter's inclusion in school and in community. Aaron has actively shared on various boards and committees of disability-related organizations. His dedication to inclusion is exemplified by his TED Talks, The Power of Inclusion, and Unlocking Inclusion for People with Disabilities, where he passionately shares his insights and experiences. Aaron's impact extends far beyond his immediate community, inspiring others to join him in a pursuit of a more inclusive world. Awesome resume. Well, let's get right into it. Aaron, let's talk about your daughter first. We got to have a conversation about her a little bit. I got to tell you that we have several students that have cerebral palsy also. I get to get on the mat with them and do jujitsu with them, and it's just a fun time every time we do it. So let's talk about your daughter and how this all began.
Sure. Yeah, my daughter Cecilia, she's 21 years old. At age 3 months, we were at a Christmas, and 2 of her aunts are nurses at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, near where we live. They noticed her looking over to the side, so we got her checked out, and she was diagnosed with epilepsy. At that time, subsequently was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. So she's still in school. She can do that until she turns 22 in October. So she's still going to school. At that point, we're trying to figure out, the rest of working and that kind of thing. But she uses a wheelchair to get around. I didn't know anything about the inclusion piece, so I just kind of had to learn that on the fly after we found out about her extra needs and stuff.
So did this happen ever since her kindergarten all through grade school, and where is she at in school now? Where?
She was, I don't remember the exact age she started receiving services, but you can get it before you're in school. So, early childhood, 2 or 3 years old, I think she probably started, getting services. All throughout her schooling. Now she's in what they call the transition program, the 18 to 22 age. So once she turns 22 in October, she will be done with the the schooling part, like the elementary, middle, high school transition period.
Mm-hmm. So where is it in when she's in school? Tell me a typical school day for her. What's that look like for her?
So where she's at now is she is in the transition. So she goes like a 1 hour to the local college where the transition program is at, works on some stuff there. And then she goes to the local library where she works. She's been doing cleaning like children's books. So she goes there during the school year 5. I think every day she goes there. Now this summer she's going 3 days. But that was not always the case. When she was first went to school, I mean, I have a son who's 15 months older. He did not have any, extra needs. So just a normal school experience. She was born, had identified with the extra needs, and all of a sudden special education, the whole disability piece was in my world. Hadn't heard anything about it. I don't remember seeing people with disabilities growing up at all. So had to learn all that stuff, which meant we kind of went along with what the school told us, which she ended up being sent across town. Her brother walked to school like a block away. She had to get bused across town to a segregated classroom. We found out, that there was something called inclusion where she can be in with her general education peers. And pretty much after that, through high school, we continued to, fight for her to be included as much as possible. Which meant once she was in high school, she was, most of the day in with her, general education peers. So, but it was kind of a fight the whole time. So
what do you think that is? Even though that there's some, on the special needs spectrum, you have people that are, some that are nonverbal, some maybe a little bit violent, some bound in the wheelchair and stuff like that. Why do you think that inclusion isn't something they should have? We're in, especially in this type of world today, right? We're supposed to include everybody.
Right.
But I'm telling you that the disabled is not included in that at all.
Right.
So what's your thought on when she was integrated? Did she not get some kids that rally around her, or did she have an opposite? Was it an opposite effect?
My experience is it's more the adults that, are cause inclusion to be difficult. The kids are kids. They don't, in my experience, when they're younger, they don't see like color, different abilities as being, bad. It's us adults that make things more complicated. A lot of it is just the way the system's built. It was the laws that were passed in like 1975, 76, somewhere around there to allow, people with disabilities into school. They haven't changed a whole lot since then. So it's a lot of the, what they call the deficit mindset, where you point out what their deficits are and then try to fix those. Instead of, using like a strength-based approach, what are the strengths and then building on that. So there's a lot of stuff built into the system that, makes it, especially for my daughter with a lot of needs, where it's hard. It's the segregation or exclusion is kind of the default. Also a huge thing that makes a difference is there are schools where, they're on board with full inclusion, all that stuff, but it comes from the top, like the principal administration. If they are on board, it's way easier to happen. If they're not, it's a lot harder to, convince somebody who doesn't agree with my view of inclusion to include her if they have a whole different view of what it means.
Did she deal with any type of bullying in school, or was it an opposite effect?
I don't thinking back, I don't recall any time there was ever any bullying that I can recall. I don't recall her saying anything or school pointing it out. So that was a positive.
That's good. That's good to hear.
Yep.
Because our experience is if we can get special needs into regular class now, I've had my experience is me trying to make them inclusive. I know that we have to sometimes work with them individually.
Yep.
But I can tell you this, that from my experiences, when the kids are in class, it has been very few times that we've had any parents not champion it.
Right.
For sure.
Yep.
And then when they test, of course, it's a whole nother ball game because they're so overcoming this type of disability is,
Right.
and then getting a test and seeing how excited they get more excited. I tell them they're like when you come home and see a dog and they're just nothing but excitement. It's what they are. It's hard. It's hard not to fall in love with them. So, hey, Michael Faber, how you doing, buddy? Michael Faber's on saying hi to us.
Good. Hi.
So I want to know if you ran into the same thing. Do you feel that? I know that adults, a lot of people are scared of the wheelchair. Number one,
Right.
It's so weird.
Yep.
Or should they talk to them? Should they greet them?
Right.
Is it rude? I don't really think people understand
Sure.
what that looks like. You agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it is definitely, the wheelchair is not something you see every day, and kids are just curious a lot. I mean, if we're out in the community at church or somewhere like that, little kids, they'll just kind of come up and, want to figure out what it is. And a lot of times the parents are like, don't do that. And it's like, no, that's cool. They're just checking it out. She's fine. It's okay. But that it is something that also the wheelchair, you're lower to begin with. So, I mean, if she's riding around in a wheelchair, she's already, her face or eye level is lower than ours is. So it's just, I feel like that kind of makes it harder, the interactions. But I mean, my advice for that is just, ask her. I have a couple of examples. If we go to a doctor, I mean, I'm sure you've been to a doctor and they ask, what's your name? What's your birthday? I mean, sometimes there's been many times where we bring her to the doctor and they look at me or her mom and it's like, hey, what's her name and birthday? And I'm like, hey, Cece, do you want to tell them what your name and birthday are? I mean, she's capable. First default to ask her. And then, if she can't do it, then we can help her. But I suggest always, talk to them just like that. Also, my friend of mine, Nick Earhart, I asked him before I did my last TEDx talk, do you have anything that, any stories about, people, how they interact with you? And he's shared a similar story where he's gone to restaurants and he has cerebral palsy and he's verbal. And if he goes to restaurants, sometimes they'll look at his friends and ask them what he wants to eat instead of just, looking at him and asking him what he wants to eat. So it definitely is a thing.
Yes. I think that's such a powerful point that you talk about right there, that people don't include them. I was at Disneyland yesterday and there was probably 2 or 3 kids that I said hello to, you know
Sure.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can tell the ones that are nonverbal and nothing, but they still like being talked to.
Absolutely.
They still smile.
Yep.
And, because nobody's really talking to them for sure. So I think that's great feedback to let people know that, hey, it's okay that they do have their own minds. They can talk.
Yes.
I think that's the other misnomer. And I don't know if that's kind of what you're on out there doing as an advocate for this community, because I don't know if you've heard of the coffee company, Bo and Betty, right? They are they only hire people with disabilities.
Yep.
And it's so I sit there every time I go to Savannah, I go there and that's where I work.
Sure.
Because I like to interact with the guys that are in the front, and you'll get different kids, and people don't really understand. I can tell people when they come in the door that don't understand special needs,
right?
Because you always have 2 managers that are overseeing the kids, and they have a very special way of doing it, so they understand. Like, so instead of trying to remember names, they have cards, right? Like the King of Hearts or whatever,
sure.
Right? And they give them a king, and then when they say, hey, the King of Hearts drink is ready, and then you go give them the card, and that's how they
awesome.
do it, right? It's a unique way of doing it.
Yeah.
But like when I was there last time, I was watching the gentleman behind the counter, and he's definitely higher autism for sure. Smart, you can tell he's smart, but he's just very matter of fact, right? Just very matter of fact. And I could tell sometimes when people come in, they're just a little taken back by it, where you don't really realize how awesome this store is, and that he's in an environment that he gets to work and do things in.
That's great.
And so it's that coffee company is awesome. If you never heard about it, I would highly recommend. And if you're ever in town and see one where you're at traveling,
Yeah.
I would definitely go inside. You will
Absolutely.
really get a kick out of that. It's really something that is a special place, and they have that. I don't know. Do I have that coffee cup? I usually have it. It says always included, radically inclusive. It says one of
Sure.
their coffee cups.
Awesome.
So they're I don't have it here with me. I usually have that coffee cup with me, but I thought I'd share that with you so you have you have that. So this TEDx talks. Let's talk about that when you're on stage with TEDx. First of all, how'd you get that? How'd you get to do that?
So the first one was in the town I'm in, Austin, Minnesota, Spam Town, USA. So if you've heard of the lunch meat spam, this is where it's made. There's a spam museum if you ever want to visit. But I saw an ad in the paper that they were putting on a TEDx event. And before that, I liked watching TED Talks. So it was like, hey, sweet, let's try. Just shared my story about my daughter and just I wanted to talk about inclusion, just applied and got into that one. And that one was 10 years ago. So that was probably for sure one of the top 10 experiences in my life. Shared stories during my first TEDx talk that I'd never talked about in public. Never shared those stories. And they were about things that had happened to us in Austin. So it was pretty powerful to be able to share those on that stage. The second one I just did in April in South Dakota. This is the 10-year anniversary of my first one. So I applied. Second time I applied for that one where I got my master's degree and got into that one. So this one I shared more about using empathy to create inclusion. You can't know what people want or need, what their needs are unless you talk to them. So using empathy to create inclusion for people with disabilities.
I think that when you go on to talk, did that help explode your brand or whatever go out there? Did that help put out what this is?
Yeah, it definitely helps, create some, talk, the awareness for it. So yeah, it definitely does help for sure.
Interesting. Dr. Oliver Reed's on.
Hi, Mr. Dr. Oliver Reed. Saw you in May.
Yes. That was so when your TED Talks are still online and everything, right? Because I want to make sure that we include those in.
Yeah, they're on YouTube. So if you I can send you the links, but
I want to make sure we have links for that so that people can hear. We can put that word out here even more.
Sure.
So on your TED Talks, explain to me TED Talks real quick before we go in there. Do you have an audience? Do they set up an audience for you?
So yeah, the first one I did, I was in a smaller venue. There's probably 50 people there. So it's a program of, 5 to 10 other, speakers that do talks that can't be over 15 minutes. So you apply, you give your talks, there's some breaks, that kind of thing. Then they record them and put them online. The second one I did this year was more polished. It was at a university. So it was in a smaller auditorium. I think they had like 100 tickets sold, and then they actually live streamed that one on Facebook this time as well.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good. I always wondered about that, how that comes about, because I've listened to some really good TED Talks also when this is out here. When did you decide? So this inclusion thing, when did you decide, and what is it exactly that you do? Let's talk about that.
Sure. Once I found out about, the quick story, she was probably first grade. I went to visit her at school. In the classroom, she was in the segregated classroom. And the kids in there were already folding towels. So I was like, why are they folding towels? They're in first grade. Why are we not, having them in math and reading? So I kind of opened my eyes and, just realized that, they need to be included. Another quick story is right before I gave my first TEDx talk, my daughter, she has always loved singing, was in choir. Her choir was going to sing at a historic theater in town. But the issue is that there's not a way for her to get up onto the stage in her wheelchair. So I had to actually pick her up out of her chair, carry her up on the stage and set her on a chair just so she could, participate in that. So just things like that where for, people that aren't in a wheelchair, I mean, they can easily get up there. She can't. So why we need to raise awareness for one, and then, question policies and just, make it so she can be included. So that was kind of how it started. So what I do now is I, coach families to navigate the special education process. So like I said, I knew nothing about it, had to learn it all on my own. So just those tips and tricks that I've come across, I want to share with them, coach the families, to be, if they want, to have their kid included as much as possible, just to navigate that, the ins and outs and the things that they don't tell you, or the things that you make stuff go more smoothly.
That is, I've been down the IEP road myself with my own children.
Okay.
And I know that when I was in school way back then, I went to a private school from a public to a private, and I couldn't quite take their placement test. So they said, we want him to do third grade over. And my parents go ahead and said, okay, let's do that. And I think that was the right decision for me at that time, because then it helped me, develop so much better from there. And I remember vividly my one son in the first or second grade, he didn't do well in. And I said the same thing. I said, just let him repeat it.
Sure.
Sometimes boys learn a little bit less or less. They would not do that. We'll do special eds. And then, of course, school was a struggle ever since. I believe that if they would have let him do it one more time, his foundation would have been set and everything else came along a lot better. But he also grew out of that. Now, I don't know if you see that with your experiences or with people that you work with. His first year of college was a little bit rough.
Sure.
But all of a sudden, things started clicking more. So, it begged me to offer, okay, was there issues, or was there just lack of teachers to put him on the right path? Because then all of a sudden,
right,
when he took things serious, things changed around for him, and then he ended up getting his bachelor's degree, right?
Sure.
So, I mean, I don't know. What's your thought on that? Just from my experiences.
Yeah, that's a great question. I definitely think that, children or students that, have an IEP or need extra help at younger ages definitely can, you grow up something, have the right teacher, sparks that interest in you, that you opens up a world in a way that you can access it better and think differently and, progress. So it's a very interesting question. Personally, the education system, the way it's set up is I just don't feel it's set up correctly. I think it should be more like I talked about earlier, like, strengths based, figure out what kids are good at. If a kid's good at art, and why are we, still having them memorize facts when they're not, they want to go down the art path? Let's try to give them classes and, the information to like support their strength and what they want to do. That's how I think. In my mind, I'd rather have school set up that way. So, more focused on what the kids' gifts are, what their strengths are, and, help them blossom those some more.
I think I agree. I agree with that wholeheartedly. So those that are listening, so let's talk about, because we talk about different levels of, autism, where you go from, light autism to highly functioning, which means they might be a little socially awkward. But then again, some adults are socially awkward anyway. So I don't know what the difference is, but then you have those that are maybe on the, where they kind of rock back and forth and they might even get violent a little bit. We've had that also.
Sure.
In your realm, let's talk about cerebral palsy. Let's explain to people what that is, because I think that's the next thing, because people may hear the word all the time and they say, oh, that's somebody that's in a wheelchair. Let's talk about what that particularly is. All right. And what what your typical day looks like for somebody that has it.
Sure.
Okay.
So, that cerebral palsy, I don't know the exact definition, but it has to do with like your muscles and that type of thing. And if I recall correctly, when she was diagnosed, it's kind of a collection of lots of different things, and it varies, similar to autism, where you can go from one end to another. There's a lot of nobody's the same. There's a lot of, differences. For instance, for my daughter, she uses a wheelchair. She can stand up. So when she's with me a couple of days a week, to get her out of her wheelchair to go to the bathroom, for instance, she grabs around my neck. She can, bear weight on her legs enough for me to help get her onto the toilet. But she can't, doesn't have enough strength in her legs to walk independently like that. So that's kind of how it presents in her. Also, her right arm has full use and strength. Her left arm is a little bit like her hand doesn't work like yours or mine does. So that's kind of how hers presents. So which means for us, she needs help with, daily living things like just getting dressed, cleaning up after the bathroom, help taking showers,
Right.
fixing your hair, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how it presents for her. But, for other people, with cerebral palsy, they can have, I know my son had a friend who his dad, I think he had cerebral palsy, and he works, a corporate job. He's able to do that, that kind of stuff. So it varies greatly, based on the severity of the symptoms or, how it's affecting them.
So for those listening now, cerebral palsy, does it affect speech? Is there muscles that it can affect speech? Does it affect mental capacity? Why don't we talk about that part of it?
So you're asking me great questions. My daughter is she's verbal, but not clear. So I feel like, yes, that is going to affect for her. It does kind of affect her speech as well. The mental piece, I don't think cerebral palsy has to do with the mental part of it. I think it's more just the physical things.
Mm-hmm. So which could make it even more frustrating for somebody like them because they know what they want to say and maybe can't say it, correct?
For sure, yeah.
Right. And I think that's where a lot of the fear of the wheelchair and what to say to people, because it's frustrating for them too.
Right.
Also not being able to communicate because they want so much to say something.
Right.
And I've seen the differences myself there's some great cerebral palsy comedians. I don't know if you ever watched them. Oh my gosh, they are so freaking funny.
Yeah, I've seen Josh Blue is one that comes to mind.
Yeah. And so he is a riot, but look at what an advocate he is, where you can laugh at yourself and bring light to such a serious subject so that everybody can feel inclusive. And I think that's what you're talking about, right? The inclusive dad. So I wanted to bring this out to people so that they don't have such a push away on those with disabilities, or we feel like we can't touch them or anything of that fact. Because if I asked the parents, I said, hey, can I shake his hand and introduce myself? I'll do physical touch.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Hey, it's good to meet you. And, and we'll talk. And I said, hey, if you can't understand me, you wait this way and this way. And I'll ask very yes or no type questions. Hey, you having fun today? Like I did it yesterday at Disneyland. And I asked a little girl, hey, you having fun today? And she shook her head yes. And I said, I love trains, the big trains up there. And she goes, yes. And I said, I got to go on that for a while. Is your favorite ride? I'll give you 3 to choose from. You shake your head when you hear the one you want. And then, of course, she shook her head for all 3. I said, so you're pretty much a Disney freak like I am. Right. And we just had a good conversation. It was just fun. I just had a good time with her.
How did the parents react to that?
I asked them.
Okay.
But I told them, I said, hey, I work with special needs. I have a martial arts school. I have a very thing. Do you mind? Because she's probably maybe 13.
Sure.
She goes, do you mind if I talk to her? And they said no. And I said, okay, cool. And, I got her name and then I called her name and then we kind of talked a little bit. I talked about her shirt. Hey, it's a cute Disney shirt that she had on.
Yeah.
And that's just how I did it. I'll tell you what the parents did say. They said nobody talks to her. Right. That's one thing he said. Nobody talks to her. And I said, I get that. I said, I can get how it can be a little bit taunting. But I was telling my boys yesterday, it was a great day for us yesterday. I had all my kids, all my adult kids, and people from the studio. We all kind of went to Disneyland together yesterday.
Yeah.
But, I was telling them, I said, I want you to watch everybody here in these wheelchairs. Because I did an experiment one time. I had a wheelchair because I had knee replacements,
Sure.
right? And I told we're going up by Haunted Mansion there, and this is a little hill. And I said, I want to see if I get one person to help me up that hill. Not one person, right? I'm rolling that, and they can kind of see I'm struggling to get up the hill.
Right.
I'm not used to wheelchairs. I just had a knee replacement, so I don't have that rhythm or anything to me. Not one person said, "Hey, man, you want me to help you up that hill?" Not one. And so I said, watch how people are around the wheelchairs. I'm very in tune to that because I know how people aren't included in stuff. But even Disneyland now, it doesn't matter if you have a wheelchair or not, get in line with everybody else. And so that's how they've done their lines now, which there's good and bad about it. The good is, people get to see it. People they're integrated. They're included in the crowd, and they're waiting right along with us.
Right.
Instead of being used as the front ride person for the ride.
Sure. Yep.
Right. So, which is some places, some things you still have to do. So I thought that was really good. And I think education of what these are is important. How do you take it when somebody comes up to your daughter? Is you find that are you taken back by it, or are you glad to see it? How does that, as a father, how does that go?
For me, I'm glad to see it. It's just, she loves talking to people. She loves different things. If we're out, I like to see that because, now also, I'm 47. I'm getting older. In October, I tweaked my back a little bit. So for a month, she couldn't stay overnight because I couldn't get her in and out of her chair. So for me now, it's kind of transitioning. I'm getting older. Who's going to take care of her? If I hurt my back and I can't take care of her, who's going to take care of her? So for me, part of the inclusion thing is, I need her out in the community. I need other people to know who she is, be willing to help her because, more than likely she's going to outlive me. So who's going to take care of her? So I love it when people come up and talk to her, want to, say hi. She goes around town. A lot of people know her, which makes me feel good. They'll come up and say hi. So yeah, definitely as a dad, it's good to see people recognize your child and, include her.
So that's good. So what does she enjoy in school? What is she studying?
Right now, I think she's doing working on a resume, doing that kind of thing. She talks about wanting to do computers. And she's more now than ever, telling us what she wants to do, which is awesome. Because you want that for your kid to make their decision, their own decisions. What do you want? So she's been, her and her mom, she lives with her mom. We're divorced, but they've been calling the local college. My daughter wants to take a computer class this fall. So trying to call them and figure out how she can take a computer class, like a typing class. So she likes being on a computer. So right now she's kind of focused on trying to figure out how she can continue that.
Well, you said she has one good arm too that works.
Yep.
Correct. So that I think that's helping. And I think that gravitating towards something like that isn't super unique because it's a communication tool that will open up worlds to her.
Yep.
You know what I mean? She can talk to people better there. She can put her thoughts out on something so you can kind of read what it is.
Right.
I have and I don't know, in our world, we don't have very many female with cerebral palsy. We have mostly male guys that come in and do martial arts.
Sure.
I don't know why, but they all love John Cena from where all of them.
Yep.
If you go like this, they're all like, friggin' let's go.
Yeah.
It's so funny to be with them, right? And then we get them on the ground. And that's the other thing, we'll help them out of the wheelchair.
Yep.
And, some can walk a little bit, some can't, you know what I mean? Some will arm in arm. It just kind of depends on where they're at with it, but we'll get them on the ground and we'll start wrestling. And I'll tell you what, man, some of them boys are strong. I call them, I said, you guys are disability strong.
Right.
I said, it's just a unique strength. I just think that's a gift from God that overcompensates something that they have to deal with. Right. And they are, we got some boys that are super strong, young guys. And, but we have so much fun with them. So I think that's good. I really wanted to I knew I was going to ask some more personal questions but I don't think people are really educated on what exactly cerebral palsy is. Now, I don't know if epilepsy is involved with cerebral palsy. Are they hand in hand, or is that just something your daughter has one and the other?
So it's probably a little bit of interaction. I mean, she has the epilepsy, obviously, is the seizures, which can affect brain. So I feel like there is a connection probably between them for her. Knock on wood, she hasn't had any I should probably not actually knock on wood. She hasn't had any bad seizures for quite a while. When she was little, though, she had multiple 90-minute grand mal, the ones where they're convulsing. So she had some pretty bad ones when she was younger.
Yes, those are very hard to watch. That's the other thing that I don't think people understand those, what happens in the seizure, and make sure that, I kind of turn them over and make sure they're good. And it's got to run its course, and it sucks to watch it run its course.
Yep.
It sucks to watch your dog do it, let alone your children do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I get that. I didn't know if there was a correlation between the two, if they have that, but I've also noticed too, we've had some other special needs where seizures are involved, but as they get older, some of that kind of grows out.
Right. For sure.
So, which is a good thing, which is really good. So I want to talk about the inclusive dad. Now, do you have a podcast, or do you have a website? What is it? Do you have a business that's with it? Let's get down to what you exactly do.
Sure. So there is I do have a website, theinclusivedad.com. I have business, so I have one-on-one coaching for families. I also have like a membership where you can, it's a monthly membership, have a couple of calls a month, one like a networking call, just to get to know other families, and then just one where it's more of a question and answer. Bring your questions, and we can, try to help you work through those. So that's kind of my main thing. I do not have a podcast at the moment. Think I've thought about it several times, just haven't pulled the trigger on that yet. But right now it's just the website, and then, the membership piece.
I think that, so you haven't pulled the trigger on your podcast just yet?
No.
I think the Inclusive Dad podcast would be a niche that is really something that is needed.
Sure.
And I think if you can get, I do interviews like I'm doing with you, but I also do individual stuff also where I talk only. But I'll tell you this, you get somebody with some disabilities on your show that you get to talk to them.
Yeah.
That is I believe is some powerful stuff where then you're really kind of including people like, wow, they're just like kind of one of us. Or where can we go from here?
Right.
Where is this active? Now that I know you have kind of a membership type thing, we'll probably put it out. See, in August here, we have Special Kicks is what it's called. It's a nonprofit organization that's for those with disabilities, right?
Sure.
And we are launching the California one. So it's one of my best friends, one of my students that has this nonprofit, and it's out of Georgia.
Okay.
And it's infected thousands of people's lives, right? So a lot of times people can pay for their martial arts lessons because there's things included for them to be able to use, but then you're going to get some that cannot.
Sure.
And as much as you want to include everybody and not want to make it about money, it's going to be very hard for those that you need one-on-one, that you have to pay the guys that are there. And not everybody can just work for free, right?
Right.
So we do this nonprofit so we can raise money that, and those that need more special treatment and one-on-one, we can have them one-on-one with somebody, or they have to have one-on-one testings. So that launches here in August. We are going to launch the California part of that in August. And in there, though, there's a network of people, which I will probably turn you on to as far as a resource as such. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
What that can look like.
Sure.
Because in this world of in this disability world, it's so hit and miss, and by the time you understand it, your kid's already out of the school. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so what can the mentor do to help avoid pitfalls? Or did you know about this? Or this is because it seems to be pretty. I don't know if there's other states that are better at it than others, but I've never seen a great. I've never seen anything great in any school for those with disabilities. Never. You talk to every teacher, there's never enough funding. They have to go get their own funding to do more things, or anything of the sort. Even Special Olympics or stuff like that. It's just, I don't know. And see, I see, like, if you're socially awkward, especially autistic kids, those are the ones that are kind of get bullied, right? Because they just can't understand social settings. Nothing implodes me more than that, man. I get so pissed off at that, and that's why I have such a a heart for those that can't help themselves sometimes, to be that one person that I'm going to teach you how to do this. I'm going to teach you how to stand up for yourself. And in these lessons of self-defense, maybe I'm going to work on your social skills a little bit.
Right.
Hey, smile a little bit more this time. Let me see that smile. There you go. Right. Or their audio is kind of off and they have to kind of wear headphones because they get so disoriented when there's loud noises. But then, it goes to the opposite. I don't know why America thinks we go from one extreme all the way to the other of now everybody has autism. Okay. Every single person has autism. I'm like, now you don't know who's like what, because they're trying to jump on a bandwagon to get some extra help for their own children.
Right.
Or they struggle concentrating. Maybe it's the diet that you guys are giving your children. There's nothing but sugar fortified garbage. Maybe you ought to, look at everything as a health, in a health aspect. When you have somebody that comes on and says, hey, I need a little bit of help, what it typically, because the disability doesn't matter for you. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I probably I know more about like the epilepsy, the cerebral palsy, more health needs and the inclusion piece. But yeah, I can help, students with any type of a disability diagnosis.
So you can help at least navigate where to get the best advantage out of what you're doing. Correct.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
But you also have the unique aspect of having to take care of somebody in a wheelchair. So what that's going to do to a family, hey, this is, I've seen some pretty cool wheelchairs out there though, man, where they're letting people stand up now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. My daughter's actually talking to maybe her next one, because every 5 years, I think she can get a new one. So she's thinking about the next one being the one where it'll help you stand up. Yeah.
Yeah. Those things are like, I mean, I was telling the one girl that we work with, the one guy that we work with, I said, man, pretty soon you're gonna be a transformer, because next time I come down here, you're gonna be like, being able to stand up. And I mean, I was watching that, go, look at how powerful is that wheelchair going to be, where you can make them squat now, down, up, get some muscles moving, and stuff like that. It's just, where that's going is going to be good. But wheelchairs are not, people do not think about wheelchairs anywhere, including myself. You want to know how I learned about that? So the dad that I had, that his kid was taking class, mom and dad were both wheelchair bound, and they could operate with their hands, and he could drive with a special car. But when he would come in, he would say, Mark, I can't go to the back offices. There's not a way to do it.
Yep.
And I said, I never thought about it. And I'm like, man, there is no way to go to the back office.
Yep.
So I told them, I said, hey, at this point, the way my school's built, it's going to be hard to have a back office anyway. So I said, you know what? We're going to go ahead and just make it so it's wheelchair accessible everywhere in the front. So if they come in with that, we'll be able to take care of everything right there. They don't need to go traipsing all the way in the back anyway, where it's just nothing but a pain in the ass to get to.
Right. Yep.
So I remember him telling me that. And then I remember him thanking me after we made some accommodations for him. Right. And I'm like, you just don't think about it.
Right.
People just don't think about it, because we have a normal life, and what that is. Just like you said, you had to pick up your daughter and put her in a wheelchair. We did the same thing. We had a speaker for a vet. He lost all his limbs except for his one arm, in battle, right? So he's got
Sure.
from his hip down on one leg, from his knee down on the other leg, one arm's not there. I mean, he's just you know, and when we trying to work with him in martial arts, but you know, where we had him doing the keynote speaker, nothing for wheelchairs. We had to lift Ryan up out of that chair and put him in the chair up top.
Right.
Now, how embarrassing is that for them already to have to see that?
Right.
Which really pissed me off anyway. I'm like, we have no other ways of doing it. So like, you know, all of us are humping him up and, you know, we almost have to make jokes about it in order for it to, you know, for him not to be uncomfortable. Right. And so, I get all that. And I think that that's a unique niche that you have, that you're able to talk to people about wheelchairs. In schools, do you find that to be true too? Is wheelchairs something that is hard to navigate, or has it gotten better?
I mean, I would say it's probably better, but just she had a wheelchair. So the thing is that not every classroom had a desk that she could, come up to or go under. So there was a lot of discussion about, having a desk in every room. They built a new school. I think it was like a 5th, 6th grade school that she went into when she was that age. I attended meetings like with the architects about the building, because prior to that, they had redone the science labs in the middle school and not put it in any handicap accessible, science stations. So I attended the meetings for this new school, said, hey, is it going to be compliant? He's like, of course it is. It's 20 years, whatever, after, the law passed. Well, new school's built. I'm going to like the lab, like when I was in school, like the Woods class. Now it's not that, but like that type of class, they didn't have any tables that were accessible. So brand new, I don't even know, multi-million-dollar school, and they didn't put a table in it that was accessible. So they ended up having to take out the supports underneath of a brand new table so she could get up to it. And it's like, come on, guys, like it's 30 years after ADA was passed, and we're still having this discussion. It's just, so it's better for sure, but there's still a ways to go.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a real downer, So, and tell me, is your daughter verbally wise? Can she communicate with everybody just like things? Or
I mean, I kind of classify it as like she's somewhat verbal, so like I can understand her. But if you met her for the first time, you'd probably struggle understanding everything. But she, like, for me, if she says something I don't understand it, she's able to, like, say something else to try to get me to it. So but like if you just meet her out in public, you'd probably struggle a little bit. You really have to pay attention, but she can, she is verbal.
Yeah, that's good. I'm telling you, man, that stuff like that is powerful, because I'm the kind of guy, I've never seen anybody that I've talked to Austin's folks. He's somebody that has Down syndrome.
Sure.
He's such a funny kid, man. I love that. The Down syndrome community, you cannot be in a bad mood around those guys. They're like lovable pit bulls. That I just can't get enough of them. But I told his mom, I said, I want to have him on a podcast. You sit with him, and we'll do it together, and let them see. Now, if you're ever up for that, I'd like to do that with your daughter.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
I don't know anybody that's ever done it. Doesn't have to be long. It can be a good, a 15, 20-minute thing, but to let them see what that is. And I would like to do that. So if that's something you're up for, because I know that Austin now, he's over his 18 now, and mom will have to be with him too, because he'll go off and talk about where he likes to eat wings at Hooters and stuff. But
right. Sure. I'll definitely talk to her and see if she's up for it.
Yeah. So ask her about that. See if that's something that she's going to do. Also, I'll make sure that on our launch, Aaron, that I will have, I don't know if you have this logo that you have here. Maybe I'll put it up on, when we do this, on our banner. Maybe I'll do that for you. So, hey, listen, this is somebody that I've interviewed. This is, he's an advocate. He has a special needs daughter with cerebral palsy. If you guys are kind of looking for, someone to get some questions to, because here's the thing. Once I open up special kicks, there's going to be all kinds of special kicks. It's so normal at the Georgia school to have wheelchairs on the mat. we've had people that have what cerebral palsy type things that said they'll never walk, yet we have them walking. You know why they never walk? Because you don't want to spend the time working on making them walk, right? Or they're going to fight you on it a little bit because it's difficult, and you're like, man, well, too bad. And what are you going to do? Right. Sure. And that's how we talk to, we have Maddox that's in a wheelchair. We crawl around with him on the ground. We have a good time. But when it comes time for walking, sometimes he's like, no. I said, well, you don't quite have a choice. What are you going to do? I'm just going to pick you up and you're going to have to walk.
Right.
And, and then he starts walking, and where his progression now is just, so good. And we were able to give that family a car one time. We raised enough money to give them a car because grandma's really the one that, and as he's getting older, like you said, well, you have back problems and stuff. It's something to take care of somebody. It's not an easy get. So
sure.
If you're open for that, I'd like to,
that'd be awesome.
To make sure that we can do something like that. You let me know and I'll make that happen.
Awesome.
And then if you can, go ahead, guys, go ahead and tell everybody where to contact you at. And I'll leave you with the last few words here.
Sure. Yeah. The QR code on the screen, you can get that and get to my stuff, but otherwise it's theinclusivedad.com. Has like all my links to my socials on there and everything. So if you want to reach out to me, also you can, there's Calendly stuff on there to schedule a call, just to touch base and see how we can work together.
Okay. I'll make sure it all gets out there. There'll be an audio version of this probably by the end of the day also.
Sure.
And if you would, just an email, send me all your TED Talk links. I want everything to go up when it goes up on the verbal. On the audio, I want to make sure everything's there that people can click on, and I'll make sure it's on our YouTube channel also.
Awesome.
Okay.
I will do that.
All right, Aaron. Now listen, you talk to your daughter, and you see if she's up for that. You tell her I've never done it before. She'd be the first one.
She'll be the first one.
Okay. And I'm super stoked to do something like that. All right. Yeah. Sound good?
Absolutely. I'll definitely talk to her.
All right, man. Well, you guys have an awesome day, man. Thanks for joining us. Guys that are on Beyond the Mat, you got any questions for him? The comments still come through. You guys are welcome to comment away, and we'll make sure Aaron gets any comments from you guys. Thanks for everybody that's listening. We had a good audience today, consistent listeners. So that's a good thing. All right. We'll see everybody next week. Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate your time, man.
Yep.
You've been listening to Beyond the Mat. Our passion is martial arts, and that branches off to coaching, business, and health. So we think it's important to sit down with professionals, coaches, authors, entrepreneurs, anyone who's making waves beyond the confines of the dojo. Thanks for coming over. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit the website at markcox.com and hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Beyond the Mat Podcast. Find the show on Spotify and Apple. Beyond the Mat. Till next time, keep it real.